My sister got sent away for being violent and manipulative, but she was actually protecting me from something worse. I was 14 when I walked in on my dad recording my sister. She was holding back tears while undoing the hem of her skirt, and he had one hand in his pants. On the computer beside him, I saw a website open with child videos for sale. I quietly backed out and ran to Mom's office to tell her. She set down her book real slow, then looked at me with these angry eyes. The slap that followed came so fast I didn't even see her arm move. Your sister is doing this for you. Would you rather it be you in there? I clutched my cheek, then signed to my mom asking her what she meant. I didn't expect her to tell me, but she did. According to her, Dad had his needs and originally wanted to film me, but Kesha overheard them. She wanted to protect me and volunteered to be the one getting filmed instead. I remember my world pausing. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I wanted to grab the phone and call police ASAP, but my mom stopped me. Kesha already tried that, honey, she said, grabbing my arm. Do you really think that scar on her back was just clumsiness? After that, I started watching every interaction between Kesha and our dad in a new light. I started remembering how his fingers would rest on her wrist, how he'd rest both hands on her shoulders, thumbs pressing into the base of her neck. I always thought it was innocent. Now it made my skin crawl. And after I told Mom, the cat was out of the bag, meaning Dad no longer contained himself at all. I remember the very next day during dinner, Dad caught her trying to leave the table early. Kesha, come give your old man a hug goodnight. She paused mid-step and turned around and walked to him like she was walking to her execution. He pulled her onto his lap, wrapped his arms around her waist, and held her there while he finished his meal. My special girl, he whispered into her hair, loud enough for every one of us to hear. Kesha sat rigid as a corpse, eyes fixed on nothing, until he finally patted her hip twice, his permission to go. That night was the beginning of the end. At 11 p.m., Mom came in to check on Kesha, and I heard her scream. I ran up and saw it. Kesha lay across her bed, 3 empty prescription bottles bedside her, foam oozing out of her mouth. While we waited for the ambulance, Mom paced back and forth, muttering about selfishness. The EMTs worked on Kesha while Dad made phone calls in the corner. His brother showed up at the hospital in full officer uniform. He pulled the doctor into a side room, and when they came out, suddenly everyone was using words like teenage drama and attention-seeking behavior. They decided Kesha needed time at a specialized facility upstate. For 2 months, I was alone in the house. And even worse now without Kesha, Dad turned his attention to me. Now I was the one his hands lingered on. I was the one forced to sit on his lap. I was the one into whose room he'd come in at night with a camera. I remember he began recording me the same way he recorded Kesha. Even bought me the same schoolgirl outfits and everything. Mom also started giving me these new anxiety pills right around this time that made everything feel underwater. When Kesha came back 2 months later, I was a shell, and she moved like a broken marionette. Her clothes hung off her frame. Her eyes stayed fixed on some point past everyone's head. Our parents had broken us both. That night, they sat us down in the living, and Mom announced new rules. There would be no unsupervised contact between us, no closed doors, no passing notes. Dad explained Kesha had been diagnosed with violent and manipulative behaviors, and Mom added that isolation was a medical necessity. Months crawled by like this. Kesha moved like she was sleepwalking. She'd sit in her room staring at nothing. The only time I saw life flicker back into her eyes was when Dad would get that particular look. He'd mention needing to work on a project after dinner, and his gaze would drift to me. That's when Kesha would suddenly spill something or break a dish, anything to pull his attention. I can help with your project, she'd say, her voice flat but firm. Dad would study her for a long moment, then nod. They'd disappear into his office. She'd come out hours later and go straight to the bathroom. I'd hear the shower running until the hot water ran out. One time Dad cornered me when Kesha was at a mandatory counseling appointment. He sat on my bed, told me Kesha was getting difficult, and maybe it was time for fresh perspectives in his projects. As soon as I realized what he meant, Kesha burst through the front door. She'd faked sick to come home early. She took one look at him in my room and started screaming about how he promised. Just screaming, "You promised," over and over until Mom had to sedate her. That was my breaking point. I knew I could no longer live like this. And so, the very next day at school, I mustered up the strength to tell my teacher everything. From the filming, to the no contact, to the anxiety pills. My teacher looked horrified, and by afternoon, police cars filled our driveway. They put Dad in handcuffs right on the front lawn while neighbors watched from their windows. Mom went in a separate car, screaming about ungrateful children and ruined lives. The Johnstons took us as emergency placement. They had a nice house with separate bedrooms and a dog named Max. The prosecutor visited twice, preparing us to testify. But then, just as we thought we were safe, Dad's lawyer started finding cracks. Jargon like improper evidence collection, broken chain of custody, Fourth Amendment violations. The judge tossed most of the charges, and after 180 days in county jail, Dad walked out on bail. Full story on channel, linked below.